35,000 feet altitude, 2 engines shut down, 187 lives in free fall. Minutes before, Arjun carried a blade in his pocket. He was determined to turn it into blood. His secret mission: purify the flight of 23 Muslims on board. What happened at 35,000 feet altitude changed not only their lives, but shook the entire Hindu community of Mumbai. One of them even considered taking his own life before accepting his new reality. Before continuing, write in the comments where you are watching from. This story has touched the hearts of millions of people around the world, and I want to know where it's reaching now. And if you are Muslim, prepare your heart, because what you're about to hear will strengthen your faith in a way you never imagined. If you're not Muslim, keep your mind open, because testimonies like this have changed lives forever. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers. Welcome to a story that began with hatred and prejudice, but which Allah transformed into one of the most powerful testimonies of our time. Arjun Singh, 34 years old, Air India captain, with more than 8,000 flight hours. Rajesh Kumar, 29 years old, his co-pilot and best friend since Aviation Academy. Both devout Hindus, strict vegetarians, who never missed morning prayers at the Ganesha temple in Mumbai. For them, Muslims represented everything that was wrong in India. Invaders, terrorists, traitors to the homeland. These were the words they used without hesitation. Arjun would even change seats in restaurants when he saw someone wearing a kufi or hijab. But there was something nobody knew about Arjun, a secret promise he had made to his ancestors during the last Diwali, a promise that involved purifying India of foreign influences, a promise that was about to be tested in the most extreme way possible when he would discover that Allah had other plans for his life. March 22, 2024. Flight AI 847, Mumbai to New Delhi. 187 passengers on board, among them 23 Muslims returning from a pilgrimage to Mecca, still wearing their white Hajj garments. When Arjun saw the passenger list, his jaw clenched with rage. 23 of them, Rajesh, he murmured during the pre-flight inspection. It's like they're invading our own airplane. Rajesh laughed nervously, but noticed something strange in his friend's look, a dark determination he had never seen before. During the last 3 days, Arjun had been restless, waking up at 3 a.m. with the same nightmare. A white-bearded man was handing him something, and a voice whispered in Arabic words he didn't understand. "Something's going to happen today, Rajesh," he said, discreetly touching the small object he had hidden in his pocket. "I can feel it." What Arjun didn't know was that in the passenger cabin, one of the pilgrims, Imam Hassan al-Masri, 71 years old, had awakened the night before with exactly the same dream. Except in the Imam's vision, he saw 2 men in blue uniforms being bathed by golden light, and a voice told him, "Today you will witness my mercy in the heavens." At 2:35 p.m., the Airbus A320 taxied down the runway. Arjun gripped the controls with unusual force, his thoughts divided between the flight ahead and the promise he had made to his ancestors. He didn't know he was about to discover why his soul had been so troubled in recent weeks, nor that the small object in his pocket wouldn't be used the way he had planned. At 2:35 p.m., the Airbus A320 took off normally under Mumbai's clear sky. Perfect conditions, favorable wind, everything within parameters. But 12 minutes into the flight, when they reached 28,000 feet, the first strange signs began. "Rajesh, are you seeing this?" Arjun pointed to the navigation system. The compass was spinning uncontrollably, as if an invisible magnetic force was interfering with the instruments. The autopilot disengaged by itself 3 times in a row. This has never happened in 8,000 flight hours. In the passenger cabin, Imam Hassan had stood up and was walking slowly down the central aisle. His eyes scanned each face, each seat, as if he were looking for something specific. When his eyes met those of one of the flight attendants, Priya Sharma, a devout Hindu, she felt an inexplicable chill run up her spine. "Why is he looking at me like that?" she murmured to her colleague. What Priya didn't know was that the Imam had recognized her from his dream. She was one of the people he had seen being touched by light in his prophetic vision. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, Arjun felt the object in his pocket burning like hot metal. His breathing was accelerated, and a voice in his mind whispered, "Now, Arjun, fulfill your promise now." But whenever he moved his hand toward his pocket, a strange force prevented him. Rajesh noticed his friend's bizarre behavior. "Arjun, are you okay? You're sweating a lot." It was then that violent turbulence shook the plane without warning. There were no clouds, no storm, but it was as if invisible hands were shaking the aircraft. At the exact moment of turbulence, all the Muslims on board looked up simultaneously, as if they had heard something no one else could hear. Imam Hassan smiled softly and whispered, "He is coming." What nobody knew was that at 31,000 feet altitude, a spiritual battle was about to begin. A battle between the hatred that consumed Arjun and Allah's mercy that had already chosen to save him. At 3:07 p.m. the unthinkable happened, catastrophic simultaneous failure of both engines. Without warning, without plausible technical explanation. Two CFM56s that had been working perfectly seconds before simply died, as if an invisible hand had shut off the airplane's heart. The silence in the cockpit was deafening, only the whistle of wind cutting through metal. 187 lives depended on them. Altitude, 31,000 feet, and dropping rapidly. Arjun activated all emergency protocols. Attempted engine restart, fuel system checks, emergency procedures. Nothing worked. "Mayday, Mayday! AI-847 with dual engine failure!" Rajesh screamed into the radio, his voice breaking with desperation. "Requesting immediate emergency!" But even the communication system was failing intermittently, as if supernatural forces were interfering. In the passenger cabin, panic exploded. Screaming, crying, people calling their families in desperation. Oxygen masks dropped. The plane was in uncontrolled free fall. Flight attendants tried to maintain calm, but their own faces revealed terror. It was in this moment of total chaos that something extraordinary happened. Imam Hassan stood up calmly, walked to the center of the aisle and knelt facing Mecca. His voice, clear and serene, cut through the screams. "Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!" One by one, the other 22 Muslims joined him. In the middle of the deadly fall, they formed prayer rows in the airplane's narrow aisle. Their voices united in recitation of the Quran, chapter Al-Fatiha, while the plane plummeted toward Earth. "They've gone crazy!" shouted a Hindu passenger. "The plane is crashing and they're praying." But Priya, the flight attendant, felt something different. An inexplicable peace took hold of her as she listened to the prayers. It was as if golden light enveloped those men in prayer. In the cockpit, Arjun looked through the monitors and saw the scene. For the first time in his life, those Islamic prayers didn't sound like a threat, but like hope. The object in his pocket had stopped burning. The hateful voice in his mind had fallen silent. It was then that they heard something that would change their lives forever. The sound came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. A celestial melody that seemed to penetrate not just the ears, but directly into the heart. It was as if angels were singing in Arabic, their voices echoing through the walls of the falling airplane. "Are you hearing this?" Rajesh asked, tears streaming down his face. Arjun nodded, unable to speak. The melody was identical to the one he heard in his nightmares, but now it didn't cause terror. It caused a peace he had never experienced. In the passenger cabin, something even more extraordinary was happening. A soft golden light began to emanate from the Muslims in prayer. It wasn't a physical light that burned the eyes, but a spiritual luminosity that calmed the soul. Even the most terrified passengers began to stop screaming. Priya, the Hindu flight attendant, slowly approached the group in prayer. I can see light coming from you," she whispered to Imam Hassan, who continued praying serenely. "How is this possible?" The Imam opened his eyes for a moment and smiled. "Allah is answering our prayers, my daughter. He is sending his angels to protect us." Then he did something that shocked Priya. "You were also in my dream. Allah has special plans for you." Meanwhile, in the cockpit, Arjun felt a transformation happening in his chest. The hatred he had carried for years was dissolving like ice in the sun. He took the small object from his pocket, a small blade he had planned to use to eliminate some invaders during the flight. "Rajesh," he whispered, showing the blade to his shocked co-pilot. I was going to do something terrible today. I was going to—" His voice broke. "But this music, this light, it's like Allah is showing me I was wrong about everything." Rajesh was in a state of shock. His best friend had planned a terrorist attack against innocent Muslims. "Arjun, what's happening to us? Why can we see this light? Why do we hear this celestial music?" It was then that the angelic voice became clearer, and both pilots heard it distinctly in their minds, speaking in perfect Hindi. "I have chosen you to witness my mercy. Your souls were lost in hatred, but I brought you here to save them from eternal destruction. What happened in the next 30 seconds would challenge all laws of physics and human logic, proving that when Allah decides to intervene, not even gravity can resist His will. At 3:47 p.m., while Islamic prayers echoed through the cabin and golden light bathed the airplane in free fall, the impossible happened. The engines, completely dead for exactly 5 minutes and 47 seconds, began to emit a sound that had never been recorded in aviation history. It wasn't the normal mechanical roar of turbines restarting. It was as if two celestial creatures were awakening inside the airplane's wings, a harmonic musical sound that synchronized perfectly with the Muslims' prayers. "This is technically impossible," Rajesh murmured, looking at the instruments in total shock. All the electronic systems that had failed reignited simultaneously, fuel flowing normally, perfect hydraulic pressure, controls responding, as if the last 6 minutes of terror had never happened. But the most extraordinary was yet to come. The airplane, which was plummeting at more than 500 miles toward the ground, didn't just stop falling. It began to climb, by itself, without Arjun touching the controls. It was as if invisible hands were carrying the aircraft back to safe heights. "Arjun, are you controlling this?" Rajesh asked, his voice trembling. "No," Arjun replied, tears streaming down his face. "I'm not touching anything. It's Allah. Allah is piloting our airplane." In the passenger cabin, the 187 occupants watched the miracle in reverent silence. Many who had mocked the Islamic prayers minutes before now knelt spontaneously. Priya, the Hindu flight attendant, approached Imam Hassan and whispered, "Teach me to pray like you pray." Through the windows, passengers later reported having seen luminous forms, some described as golden-winged angels, flying alongside the airplane, guiding it back to safe altitude. Cell phones that managed to capture images showed only inexplicable lights dancing around the aircraft. In 3 minutes and 22 seconds, an impossible time for any known recovery maneuver, Flight AI-847 was stable at 32,000 feet, flying smoothly as if nothing had happened. All flight parameters showed absolute normality, but for Arjun Singh, nothing would ever be normal again. Looking at the small blade in his hands, the weapon he had planned to use to kill innocent Muslims, he broke it in half and said the first Islamic words of his life, "Astaghfirullah, Allah, forgive me." What none of them knew was that this miracle had been witnessed not only by the 187 on board, but also by air traffic controllers in Mumbai and New Delhi, who watched on radar as a commercial airplane literally resurrected in the sky and flew controlled by an external force. When the airplane landed in New Delhi at 4:43 p.m., a crowd of journalists, civil aviation officials, and curious onlookers was already waiting on the tarmac. News of the aerial miracle had spread through the traffic controllers, and everyone wanted to hear the pilot's version. But Arjun Singh couldn't stop crying. Still sitting in the cockpit, he held the pieces of the broken blade and repeated, "I was going to kill them. Allah, I was going to kill your faithful servants." Rajesh had never seen his friend so broken, so vulnerable. Imam Hassan was the first to seek them out after disembarking. He found both pilots still in the airplane, refusing to leave. "I know why you are here," said the wise elder, his eyes shining with compassion. "Allah showed me in dreams. You are not the first He has saved from their own hatred." "How can you forgive me?" Arjun sobbed, showing the blade fragments. "I carried this to cut your throat, to purify the airplane of Muslims." "How can Allah love someone who planned to murder his children?" The Imam smiled gently and placed his hand on Arjun's shoulder. "My son, do you think Allah didn't know your plans when He decided to save you? He didn't just save this airplane. He saved your soul from eternal destruction. You were walking toward hell, but He brought you to paradise." Rajesh, who until then had only watched in shock, finally spoke. "But I also saw everything. The light, the angels. I heard Allah's voice." "Why me?" "Because Allah leaves no one alone," replied the Imam. "Arjun needed a witness, someone he trusts, to confirm he wasn't going insane. You were chosen to be the bridge between his old life and his new journey." It was then that Priya, the flight attendant, approached them. She had spent the last 2 hours reading about Islam on her phone, consumed by a spiritual thirst she had never felt. "Imam Sahab," she said respectfully, "during the flight, when I saw that light coming from you, something awakened in my heart. Can I learn about your faith?" Imam Hassan smiled, remembering his prophetic vision. "My daughter, you were one of the people I saw being touched by divine light in my dream. Allah has already chosen you too." At that moment, in the hangar of New Delhi Airport, 3 Hindu souls were about to begin a journey that would shock their families, their communities, and touch the hearts of millions around the world. 6 months after the miracle of Flight AI-847, the life of Arjun Singh, now called Abdullah Singh, changed completely. He and Rajesh, who became Rahim Kumar, still fly together, but now as devout Muslims who never miss the 5 daily prayers. Air India initially tried to fire them due to religious controversy, but when hundreds of passengers and air traffic controllers publicly confirmed the miracle, the company had no choice but to keep them. Today they are known as the miraculous pilots, and their stories are told in mosques around the world. Priya, now called Fatima, left aviation and became one of India's most respected Islamic preachers. She travels the country telling her experience and has already helped more than 500 people find Islam. Her transformation from Hindu flight attendant to Muslim scholar became a symbol of how Allah can change any heart. The family's reaction was initially devastating. Arjun's parents expelled him from home, burned his photos and declared that the son had died to them. Rajesh's wife immediately asked for divorce. Priya lost contact with her brothers for 3 months, but Allah had prepared compensations. The Muslim community welcomed them as true brothers. Imam Hassan became a father figure to all 3. Arjun married a Muslim convert like himself. Rajesh found peace in singleness dedicated to dawah, and Priya became a spiritual mentor to hundreds of women. Most extraordinary is that the story spread far beyond India. The video of Arjun's public confession was viewed more than 50 million times on YouTube. Documentaries were made in 12 countries. Imam Hassan received invitations to speak in 23 nations about the miracle that transformed terrorists into witnesses. More than 3,000 people converted to Islam, directly inspired by the story of the miraculous pilots. Among them, surprisingly, were 12 other Air India employees, including 2 other pilots who had harbored anti-Muslim feelings. The mosque where the 3 pronounced the Shahada became a pilgrimage site. A bronze plaque was installed. Here, on March 25, 2024, Allah transformed 3 hearts full of hatred into 3 souls full of love. May this place remind everyone that no heart is too far from Allah's mercy. Today, 2 years later, Abdullah, formerly Arjun, works part-time as a pilot and part-time as a speaker at international Islamic conferences. His message is always the same. If Allah can transform a planned terrorist into a devout Muslim, He can transform anyone. Never lose hope in anyone. This story reminds us of a powerful truth. Allah doesn't choose only the perfect to show His miracles. He can touch the hardest heart, transform the deepest hatred, and save the most lost soul. If He could transform a planned terrorist into a witness of His mercy, imagine what He can do in your life. Abdullah Singh, the man who once carried a blade to kill Muslims, today says, "I thought I knew Allah through my hatred, but I only truly knew Allah when I experienced His love through those I wanted to destroy." Rahim Kumar adds, "If you're watching this story and have hatred in your heart against any group of people, remember, this hatred doesn't come from God. It comes from Shaitan. Allah is love, Allah is mercy, Allah is transformation." And Fatima, who today teaches Islam to hundreds of women, concludes, "It's never too late to change. It's never too early to seek the truth. Allah is waiting for you with open arms, no matter where you come from or what you did in the past." Now it's your turn to participate in this chain of transformation. If you are Muslim and this story strengthened your faith, write Allahu Akbar in the comments and share with someone who needs to hear this message of hope. If you are not Muslim but felt touched by this story of transformation and forgiveness, write Subhanallah and let us know how this story affected your heart. If you have a similar story of conversion, miracle or spiritual transformation, send it to us in the comments or private message. The world needs to hear how Allah continues changing lives in 2024. And if you feel that Allah is calling your heart but still have doubts or fears, write "Guide me" in the comments. Our team and our community are here to help you on your spiritual journey, without pressure, only with love. Remember, the same divine force that made 2 airplane engines come back to life can make your heart dead to Allah revive too. The same Allah who sent angels to guide a falling airplane can send guidance to your life. May Allah keep us all firm in faith, forgive us for our past sins, and grant us a good death as devout Muslims. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Until the next transformation story.